you. Thank you for joining. So we wanted to speak today about some of those basics, the so-called basics of Judaism. Let's start.
No. Dad, mute everyone. Have to mute everybody.
Hi, honey. All right, I think we did it. Okay, great. Okay, we wanted to speak today about the so-called basics of Judaism. And now we know that there really aren't basics in Judaism. Everything we do is an essential. And those essentials, even if we do them each day, become different as our life circumstances change, and the overall circumstances change, obviously, right? So in that respect, there isn't anything basic in the sense that there's nothing stagnant or stayed, and everything is dynamic, and everything is essential. And therefore, I thought it would be interesting to go to what might be considered of the most basic of things and build from there or rebuild from there our perspective on it. So we're gonna chip off today a short piece of prayer and talk about that. It'll be a reminder to some, maybe new for others, and how it can, as a basic and an essential, it can recast how we think and feel about things. So we're going to touch on the following. We're going to talk about A, what is prayer? B, the Modeh Ani. C, the enablers of the Modeh Ani. And finally, the end result. That, what I call the fabulous final result. To frame it, I want to share a quick story. 2008. Some of you may remember what was going on then. The market had crashed. The real estate market had crashed. My business at the time was completely that. And even though we had the sense that something negative was happening, we were 3 or 4 months late. So as a result of not stabilizing and exiting the market 3, 4, 6 months earlier, everything hit the wall at the same time. It was catastrophic. On top of that, my father and mother got sick immediately within a month of each other. In fact, there was a period of time when mom was in one hospital room, my father was in the hospital room right next to her, neither of whom knowing that the other was there. So we would put on one hospital gown to go into my mother's room and had to take it off and put on a different hospital gown because of whatever germs there may have been in one room and go into the second hospital room. And it was surreal. It was beyond. It was crushing. My father passed away in 2008. My mother was very ill, passed away within 2 years of that. And the financial crisis continued. And in fact, it took 7 or 8 years to clean up some of the issues, some of the catastrophic financial issues that were born from that period of time. And this thing affected millions of people. For me personally, there were days when I had a very hard time putting all of it together, hard time getting out of bed. There were days when I walked around the block several times trying to reconnect to who I was and what my identity was and what my direction was. That's how completely destabilizing those events coming all together were. Over time, thank God, we heal and we gain perspective. And in doing so, one of the things that stood out to me prominently were those basics, so to speak, that I relied on at that time to give myself the strength that I needed. And I was surprised in reviewing them and how seemingly basic they were. So we're going to go through some of those today with that context, because I want you to understand that what we're going to talk about are things that most of you do each day, but you can harvest infinitely more from. Good? Okay. Great. First one, what is prayer? So let's be clear on it. Prayer is not simply me reaching out to Akadosh Baruch Hu. Prayer is me reaching into me. Rabbi Soloveitchik famously, bringing from Harambam, says that prayer is a dialogue. What he makes it a point of saying is that it's me talking to God and God speaking back to me if I'm plugged in enough. And it's me speaking to me, which is no less valuable and no less essential. So to frame the discussion, let's start by saying that prayer has a dual purpose. Purpose A is to connect me to an infinite being with whom I should have no right to connect, but can fully connect. And point B, no less important, and let's be really on this, no less important, and maybe in parentheses, at times more important, to reach into me and discover things in me and ask questions of me and answer questions to me that are essential for my growth and my state of mind. Good? Good. Let's go to the Modeh. Let's go through the words. Simple phrase. We each say it every day. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechezarta bi nishmati bechemla, rabba emunatecha. We all know it. We started saying it when we were children. Let's remind ourselves what the words mean. We typically say that what are we doing? We're thanking God for giving us life again, which is true. But the words that Chazal, that our rabbis chose, speak to much more than that. Let's look at those words. Modeh ani. The term modeh doesn't simply mean to thank. It means to proclaim, lehodot, to stand up and shout. Lahagid todah would mean to thank. Lehodot means to proclaim, to stand tall, to feel what I'm saying fully in all of my being. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech. Wait, melech, didn't have to mention that. I know I'm standing before God. Melech in Judaism has a huge import. Melech in the world of flesh and blood means an autocrat, someone who rules against the will of the people at times, not a consensual ruler, a ruler of all power, who oftentimes took power on his own. Melech, from the perspective of Borei Olam, is an enabler. Melech means my king, whose overwhelming, if not complete, focus is my happiness and my success. It's the extreme opposite of what we see on a flesh and blood level of monarchy. Why is God our king? To simplify it, right, as we know, but for one reason only, to enable me to be happy, to be complete, to be successful, to build the person I need to be. That's the essence of his relationship with us. He doesn't want any more than that. So Melech, in this respect, is the absolute boundless enabler of my happiness, of my possibility. Chai, living, today, current. Kayam, kayam is a very interesting word. Our rabbis draw a distinction between the word kayam and omed. When the rabbis use the word omed in rabbinical literature, They reference the things that based on which HaKadosh Baruch Hu was inspired, Kivyachol, to create the world. When we say the word Kayam, it references those things that keep the world going. So when we say Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam, I proclaim before you, God who has an absolute interest in me, living and perpetuating the commitment that he made, which is to me, shehechezarta bi nishmati, that you gave me back my soul, bechemla, strong kama, should be a period, rabba emunatecha, you gave me back my soul, not my body. By the way, even though we say that sleep is 9/10 of death, and we should certainly thank God for giving us back our body, we don't do that at all. We say, shechezarta bi nishmati, you gave me back that soulful, essential me, and that's what I want to remind myself of primarily. Because it goes like this. Each day we wake up with challenges, right? We can certainly appreciate that now. And those challenges create a reality for us, a box. At times, that box is limiting. At times, time like this, or the time period I described in my life 8-9 years ago, that box can be almost crushing, can be crushing. And if you focus strictly to the reality that you have, you don't have strength, you don't have inspiration, you're not empowered, you don't have vision. So therefore, our rabbis brilliantly designed that we would thank God for our neshamot, for that which is eternal, for that which enables me to look and think and dream and focus beyond my immediate reality. Does that mean my immediate reality is not absolutely fact? Sure, of course it's fact. But I'm not a prisoner to it. I have to manage it. I have to work it. I have to structure. I can't let it fall apart. It's my day-to-day. It's practical. It's real. But I can't be a prisoner to it. I have to remind myself each morning and stand up with great confidence and strength. And I'll tell you, sometimes I say the Modeh Ani 6 times a day because I need it. I need to reclaim the words that will strengthen me. Thank you, God, for giving me back that which enables me to think beyond my immediate reality. And in times other than this, for example, when the reality is good, thank God, we still reclaim this because there's always an opportunity to grow, to build, to share on a different level, to reach beyond, whether it be spiritually to grow, emotionally, practically, on a career level, on a chesed level. So when we say shechazata binishmati, we're reminding ourselves of our mandate and our possibility and what God's kingship really means, which is an absolute, untethered opportunity to continue to grow. Fabulous. Comma, strong comma, Rabba emunatecha. Over here is where people oftentimes miss the beat. They say, great is my faith in you, God. But they forget that's not the structure of the sentence. I'm thanking God for giving me back my neshama. The subject of the sentence is me. Rabba emunatecha means great is your faith in me. Wow. So let's take Ricky 1, Ricky 2. Ricky 1 wakes up in the morning and mumbles a Modeh Ani. Okay, fine, did something. Ricky 2 wakes up in the morning, gains some focus, stands up, thinks about the words he's saying, and says the Modeh Ani with all of its power and import. I proclaim before you, Almighty God, who has committed forever and ever to be my king, which means to help me build the most fabulous life I can build. You gave me back that eternal piece of me, which is an extension of you, which enables me, like you, to be somewhat beyond the day-to-day, and to dream and to grow and to build. Wow. Great is your faith in me. By the way, if we just woke up and reminded ourselves that God's faith in us is great, that would be a great shot in the arm. But we go much further than that. So, Ricky 1, wake up in the morning, say the Modeh Ani, and just let it go. Ricky 2 wakes up in the morning, says the Modeh Ani, and his mindset is completely changed as a result. There's a great, some of you may remember Charles Schultz and Peanuts, the Peanuts cartoons and scripts. So there's a great one with Charlie Brown, the little redheaded girl, and they see Snoopy. Some of you may remember the dog Snoopy, walking by. And they turn to each other and comment, and they say, we know who Snoopy spoke to today. And like many of the message in the Peanuts cartoons, the message is profound in that words have an incredible level of power over us. They can completely transform our state of being, our state of mind. So this short sentence has remarkable power. And to the extent that we've been saying it without fully vesting in it, we should make a change. And to the extent that we need to say it more than once a day, we should do so. Good. Our rabbis say that we should say 2 other things with the Modeh Ani, which are fabulously interesting. But before we touch on those, let's reach back to the enabler of what follows the Modeh Ani. And that's called Kriyat Shema al Hamitah, the Shema we say before we go to sleep at night. The essence of the Kriyat Shema is fascinating. We say the Shema, and then we say a vidui, where we stand before God and ourselves, and we proclaim the things that we made mistakes in that day. And what are we doing by doing so? We're doing something profound and immeasurably powerful. In fact, to the extent that the Kriyat Shema al Hamitah is a chovah, it's not a mitzvah. The difference between chovah and mitzvah in Judaism is very stark. A chovah is something essential we need to do to stay alive. To protect our health is a chovah. The other times we say Kriyat Shema during the day is a mitzvah. But when we say it before we go to sleep at night, it's obligatory. It's a chovah. It's remarkably more important. So what are we saying when we do that? We're saying, God, listen. And Ricky, listen. Here are the areas I stumbled today. A, B, C, D, E. And what do I do when I do that? I objectify what happened. Meaning, let's say I punched Joe in the nose today, and his nose is broken, God forbid, right? Now, by me saying Kriyat Shema al Hamitah, I didn't fix his nose, and I didn't repair the issue between us. So what am I doing? It's not a game. By standing there and saying the vidui, am I trying to be cute with something? Not at all. What the vidui does is remarkably powerful and important. It removes the guilt. It removes the emotion from a mishap, from a mistake. We live at a time where guilt and self-judgment as was referenced by the quotes that we posted this week on Instagram, when guilt and self-judgment is rampant, that's anti-Jewish. We need to know that. In ancient Hebrew, there is no word for the guilt that we subject ourselves to on an almost ongoing basis. Because in Yahadut, it's very simple, in quotation marks, very powerful. If I did something wrong, I think about why it happened. I think about a plan for the future so that it doesn't happen again. I stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I express what I did wrong. I express my plan to hopefully avoid it in the future. Nobody knows for sure that they will, but we're going to make our best effort. God becomes our partner in the acknowledgement of what we did wrong and our commitment going forward. And any emotional issue is completely removed from the equation. Any emotional issue is removed. Again, let's go back to Ricky 1, Ricky 2. Ricky 1, like most of us, made a mistake, punched the guy in the nose, went to sleep with it, started beating himself up with the guilt that's associated sometimes with making a mistake, carries it into the next morning. He says the Modeh Ani, but he has a ding. He has a crack in his self-love and self-confidence because he's carrying this stuff from the night before. Ricky 2 punched the guy in the nose. The guy's nose is broken. And he and I didn't figure things out yet. But I understand what pushed my button, and I'm going to make my very best effort not to do it again. And I stood there at night, and I proclaimed that before God and me. Now, I have an issue to deal with that's objective, that's not emotional, but I don't have guilt to deal with, and I don't have judgment to deal with. I'm immeasurably stronger, immeasurably healthier. I tell young adults, if we talk about this type of thing, if someone fabulous comes into your life and your self-esteem, your self-love is low, you may say, wow, what a super guy, but who am I? Who am I? When it comes to adults and an opportunity comes into our lives, let's say a great chesed or a great business opportunity, if our self-love and self-confidence has been dinged or weakened, we might say, who am I? I can't do it. And we'd miss out on a fabulous opportunity that HaKadosh Baruch Hu teed up for us. So what do the rabbis do in their brilliance? They said, every night before you go to sleep, clear the deck. Did you do things wrong? God willing you did, because that's what it's about. We're here to do things wrong and to learn from them. Can you own up to it objectively and more or less figure out why it happened and more or less figure out a plan to beat it next time? If you can do that, next. Remove the emotion. It's out. Okay so far? Good? Now, having done that, I move into my morning armed for a much different possibility. I say the Modeh Ani without that hangover that I may carry otherwise. And by the way, no one is going to be perfect at this. No one. If we could do this 20, 30, 40% of the time, grand slam. I want to show you something quickly. A number of years ago, I taught this idea without the Torah references to leadership at the JP Morgan Chase Bank. It was called video conferencing at the time. And we did the workshop here in Manhattan, and they tied in senior managers from 4 cities around the country. And this originated in the From Me to My Children book, but I gave them this type of thing. I hope you can see it. I gave them a worksheet. I gave them this worksheet. And the worksheet gave the day of the week, where I shined, where I stumbled, and the fix-up. And it was very well received. In fact, a number of them were in touch after the event saying how they kept this worksheet on their night table and each night filled in where I shined, I did these real nice things today. Where I stumbled, here are the areas where I made mistakes, and the fix-up. Now, to add to our perspective about the Shema, not a bad idea to remember where I shined as well. Pretty nice idea. But certainly, let's remember where I stumbled and the fix-up, and I'm done. Good? Assuming we did the Kiryat Shema. By the way, it takes 5 minutes. We said the Kiryat Shema. We moved into our mornings and said the Modeh Ani, understanding the words, feeling the words, internalizing the words. Now our rabbis suggest 2 more steps, and we'll begin to pull the pieces together here. They say that the second thing a person should say or think, I prefer to say it, after the Modeh Ani, is Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. We know the importance that our rabbis put to this, but here again, we may not appreciate the real focus of the commandment or of the affirmation. Love my neighbor, beautiful, we should all do it, right? Ahavat chinam, unconditional love is what we really strive for. Love my neighbor as I love who? Myself. Who's the subject of the sentence? Me. What's the overarching message here? The love of me. Let's put the program together. Started with Shema, got rid of any of the hangover stuff. Went into the Modeh Ani, reminded me who I am, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has enabled me to do, and my possibilities. Next, I remind myself that I love myself. And if there's a ding in that love, go back to point 1. Go back to the Shema. Go back to the things that you may be carrying. Deal with them objectively and move on, even if they're not completely fixed. Now, one other little exercise I believe in very much, and to build a love of self, and that's the following. Each day, everybody should do the I love me regimen. I love me regimen. What does that mean? It means that each day I take 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 3 hours, whatever, and I do things strictly for me, not because they're going to benefit my family. Of course, they will over time, but not because they're going to benefit my family, not because they're going to benefit the community, not because they're going to make me a better Torah committed person, not because they're going to change the world. I do things for one reason, because it makes me love me more. And that's huge. We work hard, we learn hard, we do a lot of chesed, and all those things are self-enriching. But there may be a place where I can take a walk that makes me uniquely inspired, or some art that I can look at, or music, or bungee jumping, or sailing, or anything. And those things are essential. And we should not look at life that everything we do has to benefit something else or somebody else. In Judaism, to be selfish is not wrong, because Judaism challenges the world in saying that if I don't love me primarily, if I don't love me and care for that love, I can't possibly love someone else. So the love of me, and the Gemara brings cases and our rabbis bring cases where I come first. And the only way for me to love you is to love me. And the more I love me and I do things to strengthen that self-love, the more I can love you. The more I can be brave with my chesed. The more I can be courageous with my learning. The more I can be optimistic and strong and opportunistic with my career. So, nice little thing to do where each day, if possible, handful of times a week, whatever it can be, just do something for you. You love this author, read her work. You love that music. You love this place. It ain't going to benefit anybody but you. But you'll be better and you'll be happier. Final point, and then we'll wrap it up. The rabbis also suggest that we say a third thing in the morning, which is also fabulously exciting, somewhat challenging, if we haven't said it. And that is, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam. The world was created for me. Now, when you hear that for the first time, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, the world was created for me, it sounds narcissistic. It sounds ego-driven. It's the absolute opposite. The haughty person is not a confident person. The ego-driven person is not a self-fulfilled person. The haughty person is the opposite. What our rabbis are saying here is that when a person wakes up in the morning and looks at the challenges, and some mornings might be very challenging. They might be challenging on a personal level, on a career level, on a global level. When a person looks at those challenges, he can either say, oh man, what do I do? How do I beat these companies? How do I save this chesed organization? How do I grow beyond where I am? Because of all the circumstances and how things have been stacked around me. But if the person says, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, what he reminds himself of is that all the circumstances around him have been put in place for him to build from and on. Rather than me looking out at the market, for example, at all the competitors of my product and saying, oh man, that marketplace is so dense, the competition is so strong. When I say Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, I take a step up, stand on the shoulders of those people and look beyond. And again, that's a perspective where words create a mindset. So let's put it together. With God's help, life should only be fabulous. It should only be happy. But it isn't. And even if it is, there are tools that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us that are unparalleled, articulated by our rabbis. And believe it or not, you know, there's a Western expression, sticks and stones will break my bones and so on, suggesting that sticks and stones are stronger than words. It's not true. Words are infinitely stronger than sticks and stones. And we know that words can transform a mindset and a state of being. Words can save a human being. So our focal point is tefillah, where words have immense power. Our understanding is we're reaching out and we're reaching in to grow our relationship and understanding with God and to grow our relationship and understanding with me. We begin with the Modeh Ani, which is remarkably empowering. We reach back to the Kiryat Shema al Amitah, the Shema we say before we go to sleep at night. We drag forward the freedom, the objectivity that gave us. We stand tall in the Shema, reminding ourselves that yes, day to day, we're going to do the cooking and the cleaning and pay the bills. For sure we are. But we're human beings and we're God's unique creation. And we have the power to go beyond the day-to-day, and we should, because it's fabulous. Challenge life, and life will respond. Life wants you to challenge it. One other quick point. There's an interesting, I keep adding these last points. There's an interesting point that Harambam makes in the Moreh Nevuchim, where he says, and he shook the Jewish world when he said this. He says that Hashgacha Pratit, divine providence, is not democratic. Hashgacha Pratit is not democratic. What do you mean? Didn't HaKadosh Baruch Hu say that he's involved with all of us? Yes, he did. But how does Harambam qualify it? Brilliantly. He says, yeah, he's involved with all of us, but he's more involved with those who want more, who do more, who risk more, who challenge more, who are afraid and reach beyond themselves to continue growing until their last breath. Is Hashgacha Parati real? Absolutely. Is it democratic? Absolutely not. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives more attention to those who strive for more. That's the deal. So if I know that, and I begin to live it, and I take these simple basics and I ingest them and I say them with kavanah, with concentration, knowing what I'm saying and making it change and uplift my being, I'm literally a different person. I walk down the block differently. That's what tefillah enables. And I can achieve altogether different things. I'm going to close with a short piece that Viktor Frankl wrote. For those of you who remember, there were three giants of psychology in the 20th century. There was Freud, Adler, and Frankl. They were the three giants of that time. Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor. He went into Auschwitz with his manuscript for his logotherapy theory of psychology, and he buried it and was able to survive. And his book is a book that should be read, very important, Man's Search for Meaning. And one of the things he writes is as follows: we who lived in the concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in numbers, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of his freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It's absolutely true. The only one who can choose my way is me. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us almost endless power and dispensation to choose and keep choosing and keep choosing. No matter how long I've lived in a certain mindset, I can, with a few well-considered words, yank myself beyond it. So, I deeply appreciate everybody coming today. Continue, please, to learn and to grow. We're adding more stuff to Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all the stuff that Gailey is teaching me about. Let's all keep growing. And let's go back to basics, and let's learn, and let's be more, and let's enjoy life more, and let's love ourselves and life more as a result. Thank you all very much. Great for you to join. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So
Thank
awesome.
you. Thanks,
Thank
Ricky.
you all.
Thank you.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you all very much.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank
Ricky.
you.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Great to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you